Athletes, and he's expected to start the baseball season with the Mets AAA club. And he's received a lot of criticism both on the diamond and on the football field. But on Sunday, he had a strong message for his critics, and this video has gone viral. Take a listen.
It's really trying to keep perspective and not letting other people define you, because they sure do want to. And I try to encourage young people all the time to not let the world or other people, outside sources, define you, because you're always going to have critics and naysayers and people that are going to tell you that you won't, that you can't, that you shouldn't. Most of those people are the people that didn't, that wouldn't, that couldn't. And don't be defined by outside sources. You go after your dreams. Succeeding or failing is not making it to the bigs, or it's not necessarily fulfilling that. It's having to not live with regret because I didn't try. And, I just feel for all the young people out there that don't go after something because they're so afraid of failing, that you're going to live with a lot more regret than you would have if you tried and you failed. And I'm very passionate about that. And I think the reason that a lot of people don't go after things is because how much you will be criticized. And what if I fall flat on my face? And so fear and doubt and all these things creep in. And I just don't believe that's the healthiest way to live. I don't want to have to live with fear or doubt every day. And, regardless of what everyone here says about me, it doesn't define me.
All right, Rob, what was your reaction to
Skip,
all that?
for the first time, I agree with Tim Tebow on this part of his message, not the entire message.
Okay.
What's the asterisk here?
No,
Yeah.
but I agree with this, because I believe this to be true. The reason most people don't succeed in life is because they're afraid to fail. I do believe that. So when he tells kids to go out and dream and reach for the stars and all that other stuff, you should. You can't be afraid. And so I get that part of him, and I think that's a great message to young people. But this whole notion that that he's not warranted the criticism that he does get, I think that's where he misses the boat on this, is that this is what you've signed up for, Tim Tebow. I hate to break it to you. But along with being a pro athlete in your pursuit of being a baseball player and an NFL quarterback and all those things, comes with criticism when you don't get the job done, when you're not good enough. He was a college star, big-time college football star, and people expect the same thing when you go to the next level, and it didn't pan out. The bottom line is that he was 8-6 in his 14 NFL starts, 17 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Skip, you could talk to your blue in the face about the one playoff win against Pittsburgh.
I just might.
I already know.
Is it my turn yet?
Not yet.
Is my face blue yet?
I already knew that was coming.
You set him up.
You know that. So I get that. And then when you talk about his baseball pursuit, God bless him for a guy who didn't play baseball for 10 years, who's willing to go into minor leagues. And yes, he could have run back to this minor league football, what is it, the AAFRP or what? I don't know what the name of it is. But he could have run there for refuge and go, well, let me just go play football and end this baseball thing so I don't have to be embarrassed and me not make it to the major leagues, right? And people would say, oh, my God, Tim Tebow, he'd have the #1 selling football jersey in that league overnight. I get all that. But his baseball numbers just aren't good enough. AA last year, 273, 6 home runs, 36 RBIs, 103 strikeouts in 84 games, doesn't walk enough, 22 walks. His power, his OBP is only 336. When you start looking at these numbers, they're just not good enough. So there will come criticism about your play. So for him to push back on people who criticize, not him as a person, it's not personal. I tell people all the time, as sports writers and commentators, Skip, we're not talking about the guys, is he a good son or husband or father or boyfriend or whatever. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the job that you're doing and the position that you're in. And that's what we critique. And Tim Tebow is worthy of criticism when it comes to his play on the football field and his play in the minor leagues trying to make it to the majors. That's it. So I don't have any issue with most of his message, which is about not letting people, be negative to the point where you don't even want to try. But I won't accept that Tim Tebow, like there's something wrong when people say that they don't think he's going to make it as a major league player or people didn't believe in him as a football player.
Just for the record, and I'm not blue in the face just yet.
Not yet.
Tim Tebow did make the Double-A All-Star team last year.
Skip, that and 250 will get you on the subway in New York.
Okay, well, that will get you a lot of places because it might get you to the big leagues this year, because that was extraordinary that he took really 11 years away from baseball and said, I'm going to go try this, and I might fail. He was on the record from the start. I just might fail, but at least I'm going to try. And he risked national public humiliation, because you could have gotten humiliated from the start to the point that the Mets just said, Tim, you got to go on home and try something new, right?
Yep.
But it wasn't the worst. It wasn't the best, I'll give you that. But he has had flashes. He's had stretches where the Mets are saying, this just might work. I have told you from the start, he's hard to evaluate because he simply has the greatest intangibles I have ever encountered. I'm not friends with Tim Tebow. I do, you can say, share a faith with Tim Tebow. I believe a lot of what he believes, but I don't believe everything he believes, so that's not my connection to him. I just believe in him as a competitor because I saw what he did to my Oklahoma Sooners in the national championship game when he was screaming at halftime and said, we're going to take that ball and go stick it right down their throat. And they did. They came right out in the third quarter, trailing at halftime by, I think it was 2 points, to Sam Bradford's Oklahoma Sooners, and stuck it right down their throats. And he just took the game over in the fourth quarter, and the rest is national championship history. That was the Tebow I said, okay, I would take that guy late in the first round, and if you let him run his college offense, he won't make a Pro Bowl, but he will be able to win games in the National Football League. That's all I said. And Josh McDaniels, who's doing pretty well as we speak, right, with Tom Brady.
But that cost him his job in Denver.
No, it didn't cost him. That didn't cost him his job.
It was the videotaping?
The cheating cost him his job. Yeah, maybe
Where'd he come
ship
from?
off the block.
Okay.
I don't know. But that's a whole nother issue. But he did, with the 25th overall pick, say, I'm going to take Tim Tebow, and I'm going to let him do what he does. Unfortunately, Josh McDaniels only lasted halfway through the next year. So at the end of that year, they threw Tim Tebow into the fire and just said, here, we're dead in the water. Try this. And go look at what he did those last 3 games. I don't want to bore you with this, but they were pretty great, especially the one against Houston at home. He threw for 350 yards. And I thought, oh, that'll work. And then next year, John Elway took over and said, let's just get rid of him. Let's throw him into the fire at Miami, and this will go away in one day. And the rest is NFL history, because he went on what I think is one of the great runs in the history of the league. He won a lot of late games with a lot of bad stats, but his stats at the end of those games were sensational.
I'm glad you put up the bad stats.
Well,
that you're
he
not
did.
going to fake it.
But the best stat was that my favorite stat, QBR, in the last 5 minutes of all those games, he had the #1 QBR in the National Football League that year, and he took a 1-4 Denver Broncos team, just completely dead, and took them to the division championship and a playoff win.
Now,
against
Skip,
Ben
let's be
Roethlisberger.
honest. If you're going to relive that season, they also lost their last 3 games of that season.
Did they win?
Backed into the playoffs.
Did they win the division?
At 8-8, but I'm just being
They
honest.
have won the division.
Did they not lose their last 3 games?
Right,
Yeah, that
they did.
Tebow was
Did
was
they not
unbelievable?
beat the Pittsburgh Steelers in a playoff game? Did Tim Tebow
Skip.
not hit Demaryius Thomas with a pass that I still haven't gotten over?
Well, because
Right?
if it was any other defensive coordinator other than Dick LeBeau.
Oh, Dick LeBeau, one of the great defensive
No, I
coordinators
know,
in the
Hall of
history of the
Fame.
league. Right?
But, Jenny, they had nobody. They were like 11-man front. They just put everybody there,
Right.
like daring him to throw a 10-yard slant, and that's all it was. I mean, anybody else would have been fired after that play, Skip. And here's the other thing that I love. Whenever it's about Tim Tebow, it's the intangibles. You know why people bring up intangibles, Jenny?
Why?
This is when they don't have any stats. When they don't have any stats, I have to go to something that you can't see, I can't see, and the average fan
Okay.
can't see.
You know where you can see it?
No.
Scoreboard.
No, this is why.
Scoreboard. Rob
Agreed.
Parker, when he gets called up to the big leagues, which is going to be your next worst moment of
That's
your
not
career.
gonna happen.
No, he will get called up to the big leagues. And when he does, he will instantly become the most popular figure in all of baseball. Does baseball not desperately need a Tim Tebow right now? I watched some videos.
Tim Tebow doing what, Skip? Is he coming up to pinch hit
You know what?
in the 8th inning?
Yeah, he will.
What
he
is
will.
he?
And you
Skip,
know what? I wouldn't bet against him
What
in that
is he, though?
situation.
He's not a home run hitter. He's a big guy. He's not a home run hitter. He's had 14 home runs in 200.
Have you
11
seen
games.
stats for some of the all-time sluggers in their first 2 years in the minors? It takes a long time to learn this game. You know it, and I know it.
It's one of the toughest
Right?
things to do. I get you that. I get there, but I'm just not buying that Tim Tebow is going to make an impact in Major League Baseball.
He will.
Skip, he might have a cup of coffee and a sweet roll, but that's about it.
He'll have 2 or 3 big hits, game-winning hits for the Mets, and he will become the it player in baseball because that's what he's made of. And when he pulls that off, it's going to be sweet to a lot of people who believe in this guy because he did it against the longest odds you could ever do it against. Because the Rob Parkers were all saying, you are going to fall on your face in baseball, right?
I'm rooting for the guy. I hope you come back that day he gets called up to the big
I want to
leagues.
be here for that.
Yes, we're going to have you back for that moment. I have to agree. I'm with Skip. Tim Tebow. How do you not listen to that and be inspired by the guy?
I hear you.
All right, we need some inspiration for LeBron and the Lakers possibly because they could miss the play.